Hello, Professor. Welcome to my FMS interview. A little bit about my subjects: clinical history, multiple ankle sprains, a lower back injury from deadlifting, a concussion playing football senior year, shoulder pain, most likely due from repetitive motion injury, heavy benching, wrist pain, most likely caused from hyperextended wrist that was loaded, hip injury that after going through this class, I think I understand what is causing that hip injury. It's in the anterior segment of the hip, and then also an MCL sprain from snowboarding in 2020. The only injury that was really treated was the lower back injury in 2018. Went to the chiropractor and got massage done for that one. Other than that, everything else was taken care of by the individual themselves through videos and talking to other people that experienced the same type of injury. But other than that, no clinical work was done on the individual. Current and past movement history. My individual has gone to school, is currently in college, played Little League for 3 years, was in Taekwondo for a year, played high school football all 4 years, led her to sophomore year. So he's been playing with the big leagues for a while. Bodybuilding after high school for 3 years, strongman for 1 year, worked in and out, Red Robin, was an instructional aide for anatomy, was a UPS warehouse worker, occasionally does snowboarding, skating, and general projects around the house. Currently is a powerlifter for 5 years and delivery driver, delivering refrigerators and washers and dryers. Works security, is a personal trainer. Their sleeping habits, they sleep on their left side with their left arm extended underneath them. Very rarely sleeps on the back, occasionally sleeps on the right side. A lot of sitting for school and security and delivery job while they're in their car. Other than that, if it's not work or school or working out, individuals sleeping or cooking, which is a lot of standing. So now we'll go to the FMS screen. The first thing I noticed in the squat, and this is the frontal view, so you can't see much. The knees are over the toes, which is really good. But I do notice that there's excessive torso lean, and I can see it in the frontal plane. That means it's definitely going to be in the sagittal plane. But as you can see here, the knees are over the toes, the heels don't come up, and the foot does not collapse. As you can see right there, the foot does not collapse. So those are good signs so far. From the sagittal view, we can see easily that individual has excessive forward lean in the torso, and there's lack of ankle mobility. We can see this in the lines that I drew here. The dowel is way forward, the torso lean and the tibia lean, they're not parallel, they're almost perpendicular. So we have to go to the level 2 test with the plate under the heels of the feet. And I can already tell from this angle that's a deeper squat and there's less forward lean of that torso. You can see here in the sagittal view that it is indeed true. Less forward lean, deeper squat. The dowel is still not really over the midfoot. There's a little self-correction, but it's still in front of the toes, almost not over the midfoot. You can see here at least the torso and the tibia angle is a little bit better and more parallel, and that's below parallel. But because of that dowel being forward, I give this a 1. And then we have the hurdle step. And the first things I notice right away are that the knee abducts away from the midline, the foot pronates, and there's this weird angle coming in from the shank in general. It's not in alignment with the hip, but the ankle is in alignment with the hip, so that's good. You can also notice that the torso curves quite a bit to the right side there. It's a big curve. And the dowel shifts to the left a little bit. You can see it tilting to the left. So that's the big thing from this angle. And the same thing on the left foot. There's going to be that same excessive abduction of the knee. Foot pronates in to try and stay in alignment. But there is no excessive curve of the torso with the left foot. So that is a good sign. And the dowel stays much more parallel to the floor. So this is the right foot. As you can see, there's excessive curve. And on this one, the dowel stays parallel to the floor, but all the other problems still persist. There's also excessive hypolordotic curvature of the back to compensate for the lack of mobility in the hips. As you can see here, that lower back curves and rounds quite a bit, and the hips go into posterior tilt. Here we have the inline lunge, and right away you can see that knee does not kneel right behind the front heel. It's actually to the left a little bit, but there is good stability other than that. You can see that right there. Now in this view, you can see that that front heel on the right side wants to come up with each lunge. In fact, it does a little bit, right? And that dowel also comes off on a few of the reps, not all the reps, but a few of the reps. So there is definitely a mobility issue there. And you can see with the left leg forward, the right rear foot has problems planting. So given this, there's definitely gastrocnemius tightness and soleus tightness. The ankle is also somewhat locked up. And so there is most likely scar tissue in that anterior ankle, which is keeping it from getting a good stretch and loosening up. You can see there, heel up, and then when the foot does plant, the foot rotates out. External rotation. Here we have the active leg raise. And everything looks pretty good from the transverse plane. You can see both sides get the same. They get a 2 on this one, but you can see there's a little bit of compensation there in the hips, trying to get that foot up. So you can see that here. It doesn't quite make it, in my opinion, to become a 3 on both sides, but what I do notice is the right side is more mobile than the left. So there's issues in the hamstrings there. There also might be some tightness in the superficial hip flexor, which isn't allowing for a full flexion of the hip. Next, we have the trunk stability push-up, and they had their thumbs in line with their forehead and were able to do it no problem. So this is a 3. As you can see here, there's no lagging or warming of the body. It's nice and smooth, no problems there. And we do have the clearing test, and there was no pain, but there was tightness. So I'd consider it a pass. And here we had the rotational stability test, and I could not do it ipsilaterally, as you can see here, but I can do it contralaterally. So I give myself a 2, and I can do it on both sides that way. No problem with the stability, but what I notice is the hypolordotic curvature of the spine when I try to perform it. Once again, hip mobility issues, which are preventing me from doing this motion properly without that hypolordotic curvature. So that is something that's going to need to be addressed in the movement prescription. And here we have the clearing test. Once again, no pain, but there was tightness in the lower back and the hip. So something else that needs to be addressed. Here's the sagittal view, and you can see that hypolordotic curvature due to the lack of mobility of the hips and also thoracic spine mobility. Great big curve. Here we have the shoulder stability, and I gave myself a 2, both sides. I'm within 1.5 hand lengths. I don't see any signs of winging scapula, but there's definitely shoulder mobility issues that need to be addressed on both sides, and the clearing test are nothing. So what I found were tight calves, tight hamstrings, which all led to poor hip mobility, causing excessive lumbar mobility. The lumbar spine's mainly for stability, so that's going to need to be addressed. Shoulder mobility issues and contralateral mobility issues in the ankle and the hamstrings. So moving forward, we're going to need an ankle, hip, shoulder, and thoracic spine mobility to start with, and then we can further and do other exercises that will need to be taken care of for stability, such as the core. So here we have, I'm going to start off with the paused assisted deep squat. Holding that deep squat will help stretch all the muscles that need to be stretched with proper form though. We're going to hold it for 10 seconds each rep. Active hamstring stretch to loosen up those hamstrings, because that's contributing to the tight hip mobility. The quad and hip flexor stretch due to the tightness and the lack of leg raise on the active leg raise. I think the hip flexors are playing a role in that. So they need to be stretched out and loosened up. Modified paused dead bug, or excuse me, bird dog. This will help with general stability, but it's going to be modified and reduced range of motion to prevent that hypolordotic curvature. Then we're going to do the worm walk. This will stretch out the soleus and the gastrocnemius all in one go. That was a great exercise. Due to the tightness and lack of dorsiflexion ability in both ankles, but specifically the right ankle. And then we have the active mold for the right ankle to try and break up that scar tissue, and that will hopefully help the right ankle dorsiflex more. And then we have banded shoulder rotations, moving the shoulder joint through full range of motion with slight tension should help the muscles activate better, and or the antagonist and agonist muscles work in conjunction with each other to allow for better range of motion. We also need to increase thoracic spine extension. So we're going to do a dial thoracic spine mobility movement, which you will see in the videos what that consists of to help thoracic spine extension. It's very similar to foam rolling thoracic spine and opening up the chest. And then we're going to do simple calf rolling of the calves to help break up any adhesions that may be in the calves and help loosen muscles. After a week or 2 weeks, after doing all these exercises, we will progress the movement and add new movements depending on what the retest shows. That's it. Thank you so much.